All right, I think we are live and good to go here. So Tyson, obviously I don't have the killer intro like you do. You have the whole lead up, you got the song plan. I just click live and hope that it's actually live on my channel.
Well, I
And
mean,
it's not
you roll like
private.
that. You're the more established guy. I have to give all kinds of like shenanigans to attract viewers. You're already more. I mean, I got to learn from you. Maybe we should get rid of ours. I don't know. But wait, first of all, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, man. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody else. I mean, there's a lot of things to be thankful for. Not the Jets, but a lot of things other ways to be thankful for.
Yeah, for sure. And Dakota, what's going on, man? Hope you're doing well. Um, so I think really the first thing that I wanted to say is just, obviously this season has just completely sucked, 3-8 on the season. Dano, what's going on, bro? But even though this Jets team not only is just losing games and is just extremely disappointing, with rumors and headlines and reports and the athletic reports, Woody, ownership, Douglas, Saleh, Hack, all these different problems, Rodgers. Um, you guys are tuning in, hanging out on a weekday night. So I mean, man, I just want to say it means the world to me. It means the world to Tyson, and just thank you guys so much. I mean, imagine what it'll be, what the energy would be like around this team if we had, even like 5-6 wins right now, as opposed to 3. I think like 7, 8, 9 wins, man. Like it would be absolutely insane. So, unfortunately, we're not there. But I did just want to give everyone just you know a
Yeah,
lot of appreciation, man. I really do appreciate everyone hanging out.
Yeah, 100%. Because you think about it, nobody enjoys talking about a bad team. Nobody enjoys complaining and just dealing with all this nonsense and chaos. So, for you guys to tune in and leave comments on our videos, everything else is greatly appreciated. And we're all in this together. We all want the same goal. We want a winning team. We want to win a Super Bowl. We want a home playoff game. Now it's just about how we go about doing that. And maybe the Jets took their first step yesterday by getting in that direction, which I guess we'll talk about next. But you know, right now it's like no matter what the Jets do, everybody's going to hate it because we're all angry. Like they could say the sky is blue. No, it's not. It's gray. Like everybody's mad, right? So they announced the 33rd team thing yesterday. And my initial reaction was like, all right, well, we want Woody Johnson to let football guys make football decisions. Football guys lead him the way to get better answers for his organization, analyze his organization, be like, all right, where are all the mistakes you're making? What is there a hierarchy problem? Is it a management problem? Let us help consult you and guide you in a better direction. Let us give you better resources. Let us do all these things. To me, it's like I didn't have the same anger everybody else did. I'm like, you know what? It can't hurt. It's better than Corn Ferry. It's better than talking to Chris Johnson. It's better than talking to the guy in the hallway. Bring in the NFL executives that have been there, done that to help guide you. I understand Tannenbaum is a former GM, but he had success here. He also knows the New York market. He knows Woody Johnson. He knows a lot of things. So I didn't mind this move, dude, to be honest with you, because you're only as good as the final decision maker. They can give him every resource in the world. He's got to make the final decision to hire that person. But what was your take on that?
Honestly, man, I Adam Gase is part of the 3013. So,
Yes.
I mean, to be honest with you, man, I really didn't mind it because the way I look at it is that I guess let me ask you this. Do you feel comfortable if Woody Johnson, well, I guess Woody and Chris Johnson are making the decision for this team? Like, and it's just them in the room and it's just those two guys and they're trying to come up with names and they're trying to conduct interviews. No, right? I think a lot of Jets fans would say, hold on a second, this is not a good idea. So what better people to bring in? I mean, let's be honest, Mike Tannenbaum, Spielman, these guys were never really considered top 5 general managers or, anything like that. Both were ultimately let go. But still, I mean, in the case of Spielman and Tannenbaum, they have multiple years in that seat. I mean, in the case of Tannenbaum, he seriously worked his way up from, I believe he was just a pro scout in the 90s, jumped all the way up to assistant general manager, and then, eventually became that full-time GM. So he knows the team, he knows Woody, he knows Chris, he knows the market, he knows the pressure that comes with the job. So I think, I think there's a difference between someone helping Woody and Chris find and gather information as opposed to it's not Tannenbaum taking over the team and he's not becoming the GM. And I also think it's worth noting that people can evolve, people can learn from their mistakes. It's not. And I mean, we can make the same argument with Rex Ryan and potentially even John Gruden. All these coaches that have been fired before, Mike Vrabel,
Brian Flores.
Yeah, Brian Flores, that's a really good one. It's like like these guys aren't stupid. They're not. Like they're in the National Football League. They're all millionaires. They all, for the well, outside of Rex and Gruden, right? They're not in the NFL, but
Yep.
they are all smart individuals to maybe look back on the negatives or mistakes and say, hey, you know what, I screwed up here, or this is somewhere I gotta improve. I'm definitely gonna fix that. It's funny, I was actually watching this. It was like a sit down interview. It was Ryan Clark, Rex Ryan,
Yeah.
and man, I think it was one or two other people there. It was like an hour long. It was awesome. And Rex talked a lot about his mistakes and things that he would do differently and whatnot. So it was really cool. But to kind of bring it all back to Tannenbaum here, I am pumped that we actually have other people helping Woody and Chris Johnson formulate, information and data. Hey, call this guy. We need to interview this guy. I mean, these guys have connections, whether we like them or not. They have connections.
That's the
And
point.
yeah, and so I've seen a lot of people talking about how Spielman helped Washington and their general manager search last season, which I thought was a great point. I didn't know that initially. Um, so I'm excited. I'm excited that we actually have some adults in the room here that are going to be helping out. And to be honest, not to keep going on and on here, but I mean, who else were we going to bring in to
Well, that's the thing, dude. Like you look at where the Jets are at. They're a rudderless ship where a lot of people don't respect Woody Johnson. And who does Woody Johnson have in his Rolodex in terms of former GMs or former head coaches or former how many people does he actually know other than the guys he just recently employed? So now you're taking a firm that has a group that has a lot more connections, a lot more resources, has good ties all throughout the NFL, may know the rising star, may know a guy, like all these different aspects that I think is like it's prudent to have that at this point. The Jets are at rock bottom, so the more resources you get, the better. And everyone wants to hate on Tannenbaums like that. To me, it's like you don't want a first-time GM, you don't want a first-time head coach, right? These guys are now talking to other GMs that are either, they know who they could talk to without Woody Johnson being involved. You can have these conversations at league meetings, whatever else. So I don't hate it, dude. I think this is so early in the process. And you made a really good point that when talking about Rex Ryan, everybody's like, well, he could learn from his mistakes. So could Gruden. So could Flores. So could a lot of these guys out there. So could a lot of general managers that have been fired in the past that may get their second chance. And that's kind of what I want. I want a guy that's already been there, done that. I don't want you to learn on the job because we just saw that. Like, I honestly think Joe Douglas, his next job will probably do very well because he learned all the mistakes he made here. He got unlucky at times. When you take Becton over Wirfs or you make these signs, like, you know what? This time I look for this. Next time I look for this. They were learning on the job. I don't want that this time. And I think now the Jets are learning that they can't do that because the losses are piling up. It's dysfunctional. It's like there's so many problems. Take a different route. I don't mind it at all, dude. I'm curious to see the list of candidates. I'm curious to see who turns down the interviews, which would be really interesting too. In the past, it was Matt Campbell, Dan Quinn, a lot of guys like, yeah, man, I'm good. I'm curious because maybe the perception is not as bad as we think it is. Maybe it's not. I genuinely don't know. I think Aaron Rodgers is a big part of that, whether he wants to play or not. But maybe it's not as bad as we think because you said it a lot. And now that I calmed down a little bit, it is one of 32 jobs. It's an opportunity. And I think if the Jets offer legitimate money, say it's Agnew, whoever it is, right? They say, listen, man, we're going to give you 6 years, 7 years, legit money. That's continuity and stability. So they feel more comfortable. Like, it's not like 4 years and I'm out. They know that you're trusting and buying into their vision and they're going to back off and let them do it. That if Woody Johnson commits a lot of money and a lot of like a long contract, all right, I have some stability. I understand there is some talent here, maybe not as much as we'd like. Maybe it's a better opportunity than we think, man. I don't know.
Yeah, dude. I mean, first off, I think you made a ton of great points, but let me get to Dalton real quick. So he said, at least my Huskers made a bowl game today. Yeah. So Raiola's the man. Dylan Raiola is freaking good. Like he just does not look like a true freshman whatsoever. And Matt Rule, he has those guys playing really, really well. And then it looks like you wrote back in. I'm okay with it, but I think they need to get one more. They need to get more than one mind to think tank it. Yeah, I think what you were talking about, Tyson, with the whole general managers. One of 32. Think about it like this, right? You have so many different coaches. OCs, quarterback coaches, defensive coordinators, assistant head coaches, all these different former head coaches. all these guys that want one opportunity, right? Head coach of the team. But with a general manager, I mean, think about just how many scouts and how many front office members, how many VP of
Yeah.
player personnels, there are. And also think about, the timetable for these guys. Like some of these guys it's not like they're 31, 32, 33 years old. I mean, think about how many young coaches there are in football. And then you think about how many I mean, is there one general manager that's under 40 right now? It's you got to rack your brain. So I think when it comes to the general manager opening, it's going to be desired. I mean,
Well,
every offseason. Go ahead.
but no, just real quick on that. I think you're right because especially with the Jets, think about it. Hogan was fired, Alexander's fired. They were never really replaced. They got like promotions from within. So you may have the ability here to not only be the general manager, but bring in your own scouts, bring in your own assistant. Like you could literally bring in your own staff and overhaul this scouting department the way you want it. Which then, if you say, you know what, I'm getting a GM job where I can basically bring in my vision and my scouts and my little team to overdo this. That's enticing, man, to be honest with you. Instead of saying, okay, listen, you can be general manager. We have these 3 guys still here. So that's just to add to your point, dude. That I completely agree with you.
Yeah, man. And then you throw on top of it, okay, Woody Johnson because look, whether we like it or not, it really does seem like Woody pays attention to what's said about him, what's said about the Jets online. So if he's reading all these comments, sell the team, sell the team, sell the team, obviously he's not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what he could do is change his way, his thought process, change his actions around the team. If he's, again, Woody Johnson is not just a complete idiot. Like he's a smart guy. He can look at the situation, look at the backlash, look at the fans. I know you're laughing, but
Thinking is
say,
overrated,
hey,
man.
say what?
Thinking is overrated.
That is a little true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But maybe just throwing it out there, right? No sources, whatever, just a common sense assumption. If you are just continuously doing a bad job year after year after year after year, the perception around the organization, the perception around ownership is just at an all-time low. Maybe this could be the offseason where Woody Johnson looks himself in the mirror and says, you know what? Let me just change my kind of process with everything. I'm going overseas anyway.
Yep.
You know what? Let me just dish out some extra dollars, a couple extra mil to go bring in that qualified, that big time candidate, whether it's an Agnew, whether it's a Borgonzi or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Let me tack on an extra year. Let me make sure Chris Johnson's cool with it too.
Yep.
And you know what? I'm going to fade, hop across the pond, do what I have to do over there. And I'm going to just let Chris Johnson handle the day-to-day, stay out of the inner workings of the franchise, and just allow this candidate to run the show. And, like you said, if he has an opportunity to bring in his scouts and, really hire his own staff, and he's getting a longer deal and he's getting millions, paid more, and the owner, Woody Johnson, that everyone seemingly just does not want to be around, is leaving. Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, the job is I would say pretty desirable if you're someone in that, line of work that's trying to, accomplish the goal of becoming a general manager. I mean, these things just don't pop open this often. It's not like coaches where there's like 5, 6, 7 openings every offseason we can book it. Like GMs, it's slim, man. It really is.
And the one thing too, Woody Johnson is I'm going to question the whole smart thing. I'm going to keep my comments to myself. It's Thanksgiving. I'm not going to be too mean, but the one thing is he's a businessman, and right now he can't do business because his team is one of the worst in the NFL. Season ticket holders are not renewing. Sponsors probably don't want to come back. Why am I giving you hundreds of thousands of dollars when nobody's going to your games and your team is not marketable? Woody Johnson is a businessman. He's losing money now. Now it's not as good as it should be. So now you got to look inside and be like, all right, this is clearly going wrong. How do I change this? A lot of similarities to the New York Knicks, where Dolan's spending all the money. The Knicks were relevant for 20 years. Dolan got out of the way. They changed their management staff, and now they're flourishing. The Rangers, a lot of stories in New York are like that, where Woody Johnson at some point has got to realize, like, all right, how do I fix this? Like, he doesn't like being like this. He likes to be in a positive headlight. He likes a lot of good things. So you got to think common sense kicks in. And to me, honestly, this is the first step of that. And this isn't, I'm just hopeful because I think it's just, you have an opportunity here to reset and do things the right way. The one thing with the general manager that I'm really interested in is as you hire the head coach, the development of the staff is paramount, and you got to really focus on that. And the reason why I say that, in hindsight, which is not really hindsight, we talked about this when Saleh was hired, is if you just say you hire a first-time head coach. If you have a first-time head coach, a first-time offensive coordinator, a first-time quarterback coach, all this newness on your staff, it's never going to work. So now you, like you said, having adults in the room, when you're going through this process, you need to have a staff that is solid on offense, defense, veterans, new coaches, a good, like a well thought out process of how you're putting together your staff, and not try to avoid some of these pigeonholes.
I think it can't, to kind of push back, I think it could work. I just think there's going to be speed bumps
with a rookie quarter. Like, I think they've done it a couple times, dude. Like, and to add on that, have a vet, like say if you have a young quarterback, have a veteran behind him. Like, just your overall setup of your organization's got to be smarter, less risk, more stability, more continuity. And then as you get into year two or year three of your program, then you can make some adjustments. But you want to start out strong, dude. Like, you don't want to, I don't know, like that's when you're establishing your culture and your program. I just want everything to be well thought out, man.
Well, that kind of, like you can kind of pin that too on Joe Douglas. I always felt, whether it's a first year guy or not, first year quarterback, Zach Wilson, whatever the case is, it just never felt like there was a plan B in any case. It was always just, this is our plan, and we have no idea if, this does not work out, if this guy gets hurt, if this guy just does not do well calling the game, whatever, and we have to fire someone. It's almost like that thought never even entered the mind of the front office. I mean, countless times, we have talked about, and every Jet fan has pointed out, like, hey, why didn't we sign a backup quarterback here? Why didn't we have a veteran behind Zach when we first drafted him? Why is it a first-time head coach, a first-time all these, things? I mean, you could just go down the list. But Joe, what's going on, man? Hope you're doing well. Thanks for that. Do we draft a guy like Drew Aller or Quinn Ewers? I think Aller goes back to school, to be honest with you. I just don't think he's ready for the NFL right now. I think next year he will be, you can make an argument he could be a first round guy. Like, he has a ton of talent, but I just think he's super raw. I don't want to see him with the Jets be forced in year one, and it's just another nightmare situation. Quinn is interesting. He has a lot of experience. I don't think he's a first round guy. I would be hesitant if the Jets had, like a top 5, top 10 pick in the second round. I think I would maybe go bottom round 2 or round 3. Problem is, we don't have a third round pick because of the Devontae Adams trade. So I think for me, it would probably be Sanders, Milroe, Ward. And also, interesting point, Rick Spielman loves Carson Beck. And Carson Beck is Spielman's guy. Yep. So if Beck is there in like that top of the round 2 kind of, and by the way, Spielman he's not going to have a say in the Jets draft room, but if he hires someone and they have a similar way of thinking, or, helps the Jets hire someone and they have a similar way of thinking, maybe Carson Beck, could have, an extra pull in that round 2, position for the Jets.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the quarterback position. Like, I don't think they're going to be positioned to get the top 3 quarterbacks. And honestly, I don't think I actually want 2 of those 3. So it's like, all right, if you want to have Tyrod Taylor, Jordan Travis, draft a kid in the draft second round, fourth round, whatever, and then we can just have him compete and battle it out. The most important thing is establish your offense, get your program in place, get your culture in place. It's a building block, right? And then you go forward and see what you can do. But, and that's another one. Like, do you think the Jets can go for Justin Fields? I mean, he could be a piece of the puzzle as well. He's going to be cheap. He's going to be competing. Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, Jordan Travis. Cool. I mean, it kind of comes down to who's the coach, who's the coordinator, what's their vision, what's their offense. But why not, dude? Take a shot at this point.
Dude, Fields is interesting, man. And Julian, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Because if you roll Fields, Tyrod, and Jordan Travis out there, and maybe throw in another guy like Adrian Martinez or, someone like that, or maybe even like a mid-round rookie or someone, that to me is an interesting quarterback room, because then you can take those 2, that first round pick and that second round pick and just go BPA at a big position in need. I mean, we're going to need a right tackle. We're going to need safeties. We're going to need 2 defensive tackles. Maybe some wide receiver depth if we trade some of these guys. So yeah, I think Fields makes a lot of sense. Cheap 1-year deal. He's not going to cost a lot. If the Jets want to, of course, go down that path.
Now, but the question with quarterback, we got to touch on this because I think I guess I'm different than everybody else. Aaron Rodgers spoke today, and it's all about the rumors. Does he want to come back next year? What else? Should the Jets want him back and all this? And now people are acting like it's a 6-game audition. The next 6 games kind of warrant whether he should come back or not come back for next year. And my personal opinion is he shouldn't come back regardless, because I don't want to have this elephant in the room where it's like, all right, you're trying to hire a general manager, you're trying to hire a head coach, and it's like, oh, by the way, you got to inherit Aaron Rodgers for 1 more year. That, to me, it's like he's too prominent of a figure where you're trying to incorporate a whole new culture and program. He's too powerful, too prominent, where I kind of don't want that problem in the room. Like, listen, we tried it. It didn't work out. We need to move on. He's like a 1-year Band-Aid. For me, that 1-year Band-Aid's Tyrod Taylor and Russell or Justin Fields and whoever else. Like, I don't want to really go down that path. And that's just me. I mean, he could play great next 6 games. But, I mean, where's your take on that? Do you think it's kind of a foregone conclusion he shouldn't come back, or you're still open to it?
I mean, personally, if I had a say in it, I would rather just the Jets move on and, try to figure out the next option. But I think the thing for me is like, I want the Jets to establish a plan, actually have a plan in place, not just wishful thinking. Let's just acquire guys and everything is just going to work out. And then this guy is just going to be the savior, like how many times Darnold, you could even argue Sanchez a little bit, but Sanchez, Darnold, Zach, Aaron, they've all been listed as like the savior, like, please come save us, and that to me that's just annoying, like,
but I think it's but no, sorry, but I guess to my point though, it's like, I don't want him, because if he comes here, what kind of offense you got to run for Aaron Rodgers. You're not coming in with a whole different offense. Like, all right, you're going to run this now. He's kind of like I want a guy to come in and say, this is my offense. This is our program. We want to bring in guys that match this offense, and this is what we're running. I don't want to inherit problems or disruptions or guys that don't fit. Like, right? If you're a general manager, head coach, like, listen, I want to run whatever. I want to bring in Greg Roman for whatever. Like, what he wants to run. Aaron Rodgers wouldn't fit that. So, like, I kind of worry about that. Like, just move on. Like, change it. Like, let's start new here and start fresh the right way.
I mean, honestly, what do you think Rodgers is going to do?
I think I hope that the Jets make the decision for him. I don't want to have this play out where it's March and Aaron Rodgers like, let me think about if I want to play or not. I think once the season's over, you give him a month? Listen, man, or whatever, or how many weeks?
Dude,
but like,
that's a long time.
That's how long? How long do you give him that? Because you figure the season's over. The minute that the final whistle blows, you start calling people who, like, you want to start interviewing people like crazy. That's going to take a couple of weeks, but he's got to decide. That's kind of the elephant in the room, right? It has to be like, do you want to play or not? We can't wait for you to go on a darkness retreat. We don't want you, like, you have to. And if he doesn't decide, I'd like to see this staff be like, listen, man, we made our decision for you. You have to go. Like, right? Like, that's kind of how it has to be. Because you can't linger till free agency again. Like, you don't want to be sitting around waiting for him and missing opportunities to do other things.
I think a cool question that Woody, Tannenbaum, Chris Johnson can ask, the guys coming in for interviews for GM and head coach, when the topic comes up from these candidates, hey, what's going on with the quarterback position? What's going on with Aaron? Because it's not like they're going to be calling Aaron first and then talking to the Jets, right? So in those questions, what's happening with this quarterback situation? Like, do you have any info on it? I think a nice kind of bounce back question would be, what do you want? Do you want Aaron, or do you want a first round quarterback? Do you want to go with a Darnold? Do you want to go with a Fields? What are you kind of thinking? Do you love a Tyrod Taylor as a spot start guy? And just kind of see what they say. If you're talking to Flores or someone, right? Just use Flores as an example. And he's like, to be honest, if I got the job, ideally I would maybe want to move on. And I would say, okay, and just keep the interview going. I'm not if I'm Woody, if I'm whoever, Tannenbaum, Chris Johnson, I'm not opposed to anything. The Jets are 3-8. It would be one thing if Aaron was playing well, or we were in contention, or we were actually relevant, but we're not. We're horrible in so many different areas. So because we're horrible, because the timetable with Aaron is so small, because of the age and the Achilles and everything, I'm open to anything. If Kingsbury walks in and is like, I don't want any part of Aaron Rodgers, I would say, okay, why? Figure out why and just keep it moving. I'm not, getting offended. I'm not forcing Rodgers on anyone, on anyone. But conversely, right? You talk to Vrabel and he's just like, hey man, I worked with Tannehill. I turned him into a game manager. I can manage his personality. I think we'll be okay. If I'm Woody, I'm going to say the same thing. Cool, man. Like, let's, flesh this out a little bit more. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, and I guess my one fear is that Rodgers does turn it around a little bit and plays well enough to be competent. You're like, all right, he's shown some things. Meanwhile, the season's over. You missed everything. And Woody Johnson's like, you know what? Maybe we could bring him back one more year. I wonder if there's any behind the scenes agreements between Woody Johnson and Aaron Rodgers where it's like, you know what? I'm going to give you 3 years. I'm going to give you this. I want that kind of arrangement that supersedes anything, and him playing well could change decisions. And I'm truly hoping what you said is actually what happens. Like, listen, okay, Aaron, you played well for the last 5 games. That's really cool. But we decide the people that we just hired don't want you to be here. Unfortunately, we have to move on. Like, that's just, he can't like, I don't want Woody Johnson dictating what we have to do. I don't want Aaron Rodgers dictating it. I want this new staff to say, this is the guy we want. This is the direction we're going. Either you're welcome back for a year or adios.
Yeah. I mean, imagine, like, it's not Lamar Jackson. It's not Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Herbert or, any of these top guys where it's like, you talk to who, again, let's just use Flores as an example. And he throws out there, hey, you know what? I don't feel comfortable working with Josh Allen. You'd be like, whoa, hold on a sec. I think we're probably going a different direction. If someone doesn't feel comfortable working with a quarterback of just a completely anemic offense that's going to, have these storylines and have these, massive reports, kind of contributing to that just because he's such a force, he's such a big name and a future Hall of Famer. If a guy doesn't want to deal with that, then I'm not going to blame him or exclude him from my final list of candidates. That's just my, kind of take though. But Hater, bro, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Super early, but keep an eye out for Mason Graham out of Michigan. Yeah, he's an absolute beast. Take best player available in the first round. And then Beck, Ewers type of quarterback in the second. Okay, so developmental guy. Let him and Travis compete and sit and learn behind Tyrod. Hey, man, that totally fair. I think Mason Graham, his pro comparison right now is like Christian Wilkins from the Raiders, and obviously former Miami Dolphin. Just big, physical, but he's also really quick off the ball. I mean, he's a really good player, and he's I would say right now pretty much a lock to be a top 15, top 20 pick for sure.
It makes a lot of sense, man. That's kind of my thinking is best player available at a position of need in the first round, and then second round you can go quarterback. But it's got to be addressing a need, not like you just have a lot of surplus, but definitely a position of need.
Yeah, and another thing too that we have to talk about, we don't know the draft order. Jets could be picking 3rd. We could be also picking 14th, right? We don't know exactly where everything's going to fall. But I actually think this draft is pretty good for in terms of positions of need for the Jets. Like when we look at safeties and whatnot, like I feel pretty good about this class. Let's see, Paul, bro, I appreciate that, man. Thank you a ton. Great work, guys. Enjoy the pod. Happy Thanksgiving to all Jets fans. Hey, man, you're the man. I appreciate you.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. And it's the one thing. It's just like there's so many moving parts right now, and draft position is going to be good. What players they want to keep, what players are going to go. There's going to be a lot of changes with this roster, which could be exciting, could be stressful. You don't know, but it's going to be really interesting, man. And Rodgers is going to be a big part of it. The whole way the Jets handle this quarterback position is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, one thing's for sure, it's going to be a pretty eventful offseason with the cap, with, obviously coach, GM, staff, building, quarterback, Rodgers decision.
I got a question for you.
Dude.
I got a question for you. So now, what is your take on this? I kind of feel like for the past, like say last 2 years, Aaron Rodgers has been the face of your franchise. I think at this point, you almost need the coach to be the face of your franchise because you need that guy that can just take all the bullets, handle out the business, and be like, this is our program, my way or the highway. This is how we're running things, and like take full accountability for everything. You think you need like a powerful presence as head coach, or does it more of just winning will take over for that? Because I think you need like Flores is kind of a hard ass, Vrabel is, Gruden is. I think you need that guy. It's kind of established that can be like, listen, I've been there, done that. I know what I'm doing. back off. I got this. And players could buy in because they actually did it before. Like they've actually done this before. Do you think the Jets need that in the situation that they're in right now?
I think for me, I think it's a great point. I think for me, I want someone who really, really wants the job and is seeking an opportunity and looking at the Jets as an opportunity as opposed to this, almost as a chore, like for example, Brian Flores, 10 years with the New England Patriots, 4-time Super Bowl winner, 3 years with the Dolphins, fired. He has the whole, legal battle with the NFL, the Broncos, the Giants, and the Dolphins. And I mean, so many different things, right? There's so many different things that are kind of involved with that. Literally, when that news broke, there were like mainstream kind of sports TV media saying he's never going to work in the NFL again,
Right.
ever. And that's it. It's over. He ended up just getting he got the linebacker job with Pittsburgh,
Yep.
and then worked his way and got got the DC job in Minnesota, and this is his second year there. I think if owners are hesitant to give Flores an opportunity because because a lot of the stuff in this lawsuit is talking about situations where Flores was being interviewed for a head coach and how he wasn't taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
We had the whole Bill Belichick,
Yep.
Brian Daboll text fiasco, if you remember that.
Yep.
We had the Denver Broncos, thing where Flores claimed that essentially he felt as though the Broncos did not take him seriously as a candidate and they were just doing it to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of different things to go in there. If Flores right now, once this season ends and he doesn't get a call, he's not being interviewed,
Mm-hmm.
but the Jets call him and they say, "Hey man, come in for an interview. We want to talk to you. We've been, impressed with what you've done. You obviously know the AFC East really, really well. Defensive football. Let's sit down." Do you think he's going to be motivated? Like, hell yeah, he's going to be motivated. And he, to me, at least, checks a lot of those boxes. So I think you do need, to answer your question, I think you do need a prominent voice, but not to the point where like I'm not hiring someone because of their name or like media headlines. Like that was one of the things I actually didn't like about Rex was kind of the quotes and talking and the press conferences. I mean, once in a while it was cool and he was just being himself. He wasn't like trying to act like anyone else, which I respect. But I'm not necessarily like searching for a big name head coach to like hire a big name head coach,
I want to. No, I'm on the same boat you're in. I want an established guy though, like Flores would do it, like Vrabel's like that guy. Like they have like a program, they have their vision, they have it, and they've been there, done that already. And that's so important because I just think this team, this market, this culture, what all this is, could be all encompassing and just spit you up and chew you up and spit you out. Where I think somebody like Flores, but the only thing to your point though is a guy like that is Rex Ryan then, because if you're talking about a guy that wants the job, the passion, the energy, wants to prove everybody wrong, that's Rex. Because right now, when the season's over, how many teams are honestly calling Rex Ryan for an interview other than the Jets?
Yeah, he might get like a look for a DC job somewhere.
Maybe. So that would be the same category of your guy. Like, listen, man, if he gets this job, you're going to get the best ever of Rex Ryan, assuming that he's done a lot of legwork on an offensive staff, what staff he can put together, like that. Steve Spagnuolo could be the same kind of guy too. What, if he ever wants to leave the Chiefs. It's interesting names out there.
Spagnuolo is an interesting name.
He is, dude. He really is.
Because he has a sweet gig with Kansas City. I mean, they're a playoff lock every year.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't thought about Spagnuolo. That's a good one, man. That's a good one. I think there are some guys who have been head coaches before that will have, they'll shoot. I think Kingsbury, what he's doing with Washington, he's going to be getting like 1 million calls. Vrabel's going to get 1 million calls. So are you completely opposed to the first time guys?
Man, that's a tough one because I literally love Aaron Glenn. He is my favorite player of all time. I watched his coaching career
Is he
closely.
really your favorite player of all time?
Absolutely, dude. Love the guy. Loved him when he came here. Undersized corner, ridiculously fast. Went against guys, 6'2", 6'3", always very intense player, very intelligent. I had a chance to interview him a couple of years ago with the Saints, and I was like, dude, we just talked football for 45 minutes. Dude, I was like in my glory, and he was so like, the players love him. And it's like, you like that, the way he handles his business. He's very intense, but it's like, I don't want him to come here and just get eaten alive by this opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, he's got to have an excellent, like, who's he bringing with him on the offensive side? Like, who's his staff going to be? Does he have enough contacts throughout the NFL to put together a, prominent staff on offense to help with his great defense? That's the question. That's a question for a lot of these guys, but for me, a first-time head coach, developing his staff makes me nervous. But that's where, if he's in a tandem with a general manager, say it's Agnew and Aaron Glenn, all right, they kind of know each other's vibe. They know what they're doing. They kind of, maybe they can piece it together. But other than that, Ben Johnson's not going to come here.
Well, it's interesting with Glenn, man, because it's like, yeah, he would be a first-time head coach, but it's not, like, he is a former player. He is, he's not the 32-year-old, he's, only like, he's fresh on the scene, like Glenn has been around the game for a long, 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 long time. And I think, he's obviously a part of the Sean Payton coaching tree. Dan Campbell was as well.
Yep.
Dan Campbell took him from New Orleans over to Detroit. So, like, just the names that come to mind, you can bring in maybe like a Pete Carmichael as OC, just throwing out a name, or like a Dennis Allen as DC.
There's one.
So, to be sitting here for 5 minutes and just throw out like two guys that have been, in those specific roles before and have had success, like that, I would feel better about that
100%,
because it would be more so like a veteran staff being put together, not like Saleh, LaFleur, Ulbrich. You know what I mean?
Bro, that's exactly what I was talking about before. You nailed it. That's exactly what I was talking about, where if you have a first-time head coach, have that staff there with him that's veteran guys that, like, all right, let me help you with game management, time management. Let me help you with your program, establishing things. Yeah, if you tell me Aaron Glenn comes with something like that, I'm down. Like, but you want, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, because the Jets' offense is blown for like a decade now. But, and that's this point from Armand with Flores and Tua. I mean, I think every candidate now that's been fired has got a story about why they got fired. They're all going to have issues. You hope they learn from it. The relationship with players gotten better. I mean, according to everybody in Minnesota, everybody loves Flores, and the players love that guy.
Yeah, dude. And again, like, using like a real world example, right? I mean, so many, like, everyone I feel like gets fired at some point in their life. Let's just throw out the hypothetical. You're a chef and you get fired, and they say, hey, you're being let go because of this and this. In your next spot, your next line of work, whether it's, you taking over as another chef, or, in that same position, or whatever it may be, you're going to think to yourself, hey, you know what, maybe I should not do those two things.
Yeah.
Because it got me fired. And Flores had the opportunity to kind of talk about the whole Tua thing. And, he had a chance to kind of take a shot back at him, but he didn't. He took the high road. I'm not going to just completely just erase him as a candidate because he didn't get along with the quarterback.
No.
And I think where that stemmed from was Flores wanted Justin Herbert, but the owner wanted Tua, and they went with Tua. So not justifying the way Flores would talk to Tua and stuff like that. Obviously, it's not ideal for your head coach and your top 5 pick to be feuding like that. But at the same time, you just hope that Flores would be able to move on and have his own self-awareness to say, hey, I screwed up. Maybe I wouldn't do that again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's common sense. I think once you have that bad experience and you see you're labeled a certain type of person, if you want to stay relevant in the NFL, you got to adjust. You got to change your mindset. Look at Tom Coughlin with the Giants, man. He left the Jaguars. Oh, he's too hard on his players. He adjusted, became more player friendly, and they started winning. They started winning again. So it's like, if you want to keep progressing, you got to keep improving. You got to keep learning about yourself, self-evaluating, and making changes. As the sport evolves, you evolve. And that's how you stay. You stay in the business. So, and a guy here that, if you hire Monken, would the Jets have Rex Ryan to be a defensive coordinator? First of all, I like Monken a lot. I think it'd be an interesting hire. The Jets didn't hire him last time, But I don't think Rex Ryan would come here as a defensive coordinator. I think his mindset is I should run the show, not be a part of the show.
Yeah, that almost kind of feel like if Rex Ryan is being brought in, it almost feels like he would be either the head coach or the co-head coach, because I think he would. I mean, he obviously commands the room, and it's not like he was a DC after Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I don't know. I wouldn't want there to be a situation like maybe like Wink Martindale and Brian Daboll, where it's like a lot of guys respected Wink, a lot of guys maybe preferred Martindale over Daboll. So when the two would have conflicting ideas, it was like a big, it wasn't like there wasn't a lot of cohesion there.
Yep.
And so, as head coach, Daboll obviously made the move, but I think if Rex is being brought back, I would like to see him as head coach as opposed to DC.
Yeah, his personality is way too big. His aura with the media is way too big to be sitting there as a defensive coordinator. I don't think he'd do that.
What's up, Sneakers? How's it going, man? So yeah, dude. I mean, there's so many different coaching options. That's the good news in this whole thing, man. Like, oh, the Jets are unattractive job. Like, bro, they're. I could probably rattle off 10 names right now that make realistic sense for the Jets.
Yep.
As head coach, and it's not even talking about the GM. So I think in the end, it will be fine, and the Jets will hire two good candidates. I mean, maybe I'm too optimistic or whatever, but I truly think we will walk away feeling encouraged after the hires are made.
Yeah, I'm going to go right now, kind of assuming that Woody Johnson's learned some lessons here, especially financially, where he's losing money now. He's losing fans. He's losing season ticket holders. He's losing sponsors. Like, it's not good for him. He's got to fix it and fix it fast. I think if you hire a qualified staff and you give them a long-term contract, you spend the money where you spent it before. But listen, you hire new scouts, got to hire new assistant GMs. You got to pretty much overhaul a lot of things. If you do that and like let these guys just do their job, your fortunes will change. It happens every year in the NFL, dude. Like, look at the Texans, the Commanders, the Lions. Like, it shouldn't take 5 years to rebuild this. It could happen in 2, right? It can happen pretty quickly if you just do it right and stay out of the way. That's really what it is. Like, you have enough talent. You have a little bit of, you have room to do things here. Just do it. So it's easy to be doom and gloom. Very easy. I've been pissed off for like a month now, but you got to have faith that they're going to figure this out. Finally, they're due. They got to figure it out. And I like the approach they're taking so far.
Yeah, man. So Jacob, I'm going to say it's Brian Flores, man, for me. Not to keep, harping on one guy here. I feel like we've talked about him so much, but for me, I think, I think he makes a lot of sense. Flores, Glenn, I'm still a little hesitant to say Rex, but to maybe go back and forth a little bit with Aaron Glenn, I think he also makes a ton of sense for New Orleans, where he's coached for a while. So it's funny because he has connections to both the Jets and the Saints. But yeah, I think the Saints maybe play it safe. I don't think the Saints go out on like this massive limb and they swing for the fences and go hire this big name guy. I think I don't know. It's just New Orleans is an interesting option, but for me, again, for the Jets, I think it's going to be Flores or Glenn.
That's kind of where I'm at too, because I think the other top candidates are going to go somewhere else. Ben Johnson's not going to come here. Vrabel's not coming here. I don't think Gruden happens. I don't think Rex happens. I think Rex is a great story. He's campaigned, but the Jets aren't going to go back to the past. They want to move to the future. They'll grant him an interview out of courtesy and out of respect, but I think it's just not going a different direction. Kingsbury's interesting, but I kind of think he's going to want to go it depends on what jobs become available too. If Chicago becomes available, Jacksonville, there's a lot of jobs with a quarterback where you're like, you know what?
Let's play it out real quick. So Jets, Saints, I'm going to say that Peterson gets canned.
100%.
I'm going to say McCarthy is out.
Chicago.
So we're up to 5. I think the Giants should move on from Daboll.
They're close.
Cleveland confirmed that Stefan, or I don't know if confirm it, maybe I guess is too strong of a word at this point in the season. We don't know how it's going to play out, but it's looking like Stefanski will be back in 25. So he's off the table.
Maybe Zach Taylor.
Yeah. One bad year after all the success. And like, if you're the Bengals, you almost have to know that you're going to be getting Ben Johnson. Cause if you fire Zach Taylor and then you go and hire just like some random,
Yep.
like shot in the dark, that could be bad.
But like if you're a head coach, what the first thing you look for is a quarterback. Like if I'm taking a job, who's the quarterback? So all the teams you just mentioned, regardless of what you think of Jerry Jones, Dak Prescott's still a guy you can win with. And they have a lot of talent in Dallas. Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence. A lot of these teams have quarterbacks, dude. Where it's like, you know what? That's why I think Vrabel takes a job like that. I think, Ben Johnson wants to work with a young quarterback. Trevor Lawrence, that would make sense. Like, don't you think? Or that's kind of where.
Yeah. I mean, well, another team that we have to throw into the mix too is the Raiders. I don't know if Pierce is going to stay or leave.
Yep.
But out of so that's what, like 6-7 teams, like around that mark. I feel like every year we do see like one surprise, like firing. Like for example, if if the Bucks finish with like 7 wins, do they let go of Todd Bowles? I don't know. Like there's always that one like weird team that like makes a rash decision. And funny enough, I kind of felt like when Miami did that with Flores coming off a good season, that was like that rash decision type of team. But just kind of looking at those teams, man, I would say Ben Johnson makes sense for Chicago. I think he makes sense for Jacksonville.
Yep.
Those are, I would say, are the top 2 for Ben Johnson. Vrabel, I would say Jacksonville. Dallas might be a little tough because of the whole Jerry Jones thing. Mike Vrabel's, it's tough to pinpoint. I do feel like Jacksonville makes a ton of sense for Vrabel, but outside of that, I just don't know really what he's going to be looking for. Because he's going to turn around the defense. So you got to imagine he's going to want an established quarterback.
Yep.
So maybe Cincinnati if they let Zach Taylor go, but then if Zach Taylor gets let go, I think he jumps to number 1 or number 2 with all the other teams. So it's going to be crazy.
Now, do you consider at the end of the season making a power play trading for a head coach if one is kind of maybe made available surprisingly? Like, hey, you know what? Just in theory, Sean McVay could be available, or maybe whoever, like guys like that. Do you say, you know what? I'll give a couple first round picks for a prominent head coach that I truly believe in that could change this organization? Or is that off the table for you where it's like, no, let's just keep the guys that are just unemployed or whatever?
I just don't know why McVay would want to leave LA to take on the Jets. Like why, how or why that would happen. I feel like there's talk every year about Mike Tomlin.
I wish
Tomlin, I would love that, but he's not going to be coming to the Jets.
Is there any coach that could? I don't think Shanahan's going to get fired, even though the 49ers are a mess.
Nah, I mean, not to the point where the Jets would have to give away picks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's my only thing. It's like, all right, like maybe trying to find just options, like other options available. Like there's somebody you can trade for. Like I would have traded for, Sean Payton was a no-brainer, but there's not really a guy like that,
Yeah. So Aaron, bro, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. What do you guys think of Pete Carroll? I like Pete, but I don't think he's coming here because, I think there's a lot of factors, but I just think it's kind of unrealistic to see him as, taking over as, kind of a figurehead with the Jets in some fashion, whether it's head coach, whether it's GM, whether it's, president of football ops or, anything, because, he has a sweet gig in Seattle. He's getting paid a lot of money. I believe he would be the oldest head coach in football. Does he want to move literally across the country when he has everything laid out in front of him in Seattle to like start fresh with the New York Jets? I don't know. It just, to me, I just don't, I don't know if the Jets are a big enough draw for Carroll.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And he was fired by the Jets too. It was Leon Hess, but still, I think it's just, he's got a great job, a little bit later in life. I don't think he would, I don't think it'd work.
Dude, Vance Joseph is an interesting one because if you just go through the checklist of does he have experience as head coach? Yes. Does he have, moments where he could have looked back and said, hey, you know what? Maybe I could have fixed this or done something differently. Yes. Does he have performance in, recent memory? Yes. I mean, he's killing it this season with Denver. It's kind of funny, right? Former Bronco head coach goes back to Denver, like the Rex situation we're talking about.
Yep.
I don't know. Vance is interesting. I guess I would have to look more into it. Maybe I'll do a whole separate video on Vance Joseph. My instant reaction is probably no. There's other guys that I like, but again, based off of the checklist that I keep talking about, it would be unfair for me just to rule Vance out.
Yeah, he's definitely got. It's an interesting name because the minute she said that, I was like, oh wait a minute, I forgot all about him. That's a guy you're like, wait a minute, that's an interesting name. And listen, no stone unturned. It's worth looking into him.
Yeah, for sure. Sneakers, bro. Thank you. Cancel my flight to the Jags game. Ian, you going? Got a corner end zone. Oh, bro, I appreciate you, man. So I got tickets for the Jets at Bills game. So I'm gonna be going up for that. Of course, I thought the Jets were gonna be a lot better than what they currently are. But I'm still gonna be going. But I'm pumped that you were able to cancel your flight and hopefully you got your money back for it. But dude, I'll let you know on that, man. But don't keep me at the top of the list or anything like that. Give it to give it to a friend or see if you can maybe resell them somewhere. If you can do it to try to make some money back, man. But I appreciate you, man. Or Tyson, dude. I mean, if you want to,
bro, are you out of your mind? I'm getting free tickets here. I'm not going. I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. I'll pass on that.
Man, I keep hearing Arthur Smith too. That's a good one, man. Arthur Smith. If the Jets bring in Smith, maybe they bring in Justin Fields. Could be interesting.
They talked to him this past offseason to be the consultant for their team, so for their offense. They've already talked to him once.
Oscar, what's going on, dude? Hope you're doing well. Hello, Tyson and Ian. Today it's like
lovely walk on the beach with my sandals.
Dude, that happens. Yeah, I think a lot of Jets fans ask that same question all the time, right? Horrible season, 3-8. Would you take Dennis Allen as head coach? Nah, I'd take him as DC, like in a heartbeat, but
yeah, no.
Bill O'Brien?
No, thank you. I think he's pretty much proven what he is at this point.
What if Kyle Shanahan gets fired? I just don't know if I can't see John Lynch fire. Like him and Shanahan are so tight. I just don't see, Shanahan getting like shown the door. Dude, with all the injuries, Bosa, Purdy.
The thing is, like, if he becomes available, he would take jobs that have a quarterback right off the bat, and he'd be the top candidate. Like, you know what I mean? He'd jump the list for everybody.
Yeah, another thing with Shanahan too is he could build a staff like that. Like he really can identify talent. I mean, think about all the guys, Saleh, I mean, even the guys who
D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah, Ryans, McDaniel. Man, Shanahan is just like he has everything figured out. I think it's a risky game to play, firing Kyle Shanahan to potentially go back to the revolving door. Because I mean, even before Harbaugh, it was bad, but post Harbaugh, it was bad. I think Shanahan really, he's still one of the top coaches in football. Let's see, is Diana Rossini a credible reporter? I mean, personally, man, like I think Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, the Tom Pelisseros of the world, the NFL Network guys. That break news on team signing players, like those are always the reporters that I personally look towards. These like massive reports about different rumors and stuff, like we have to ask the question, where is it coming from and who's it being said by? So that's always, whenever you again have especially like a report like that, like a massive one where it just hits on so many different topics, the day of JD getting fired. We always have to take stuff, no matter who it's coming from. We always have to take stuff like that from with a grain of salt.
Everybody's got an agenda, man. You have the guy that got fired, the team that fired him, then you have the agents, then you have, there's so many different sources. I think there's some truth in those reports, but probably a lot of it's exaggerated as well. But they serve their purpose. They're getting headlines, and right now nobody has to answer to it because everybody's been fired. But go ask Saleh. He's not here. Douglas is gone. Like there's nobody. And they take the key points that the fans are all mad about. Oh, Bryce Huff. That's like, they know what to hit on to make us all react to it. They're smart.
Yeah, dude. I mean, so honestly, in that report, some of them just literally made 0 sense.
Yeah.
0 sense. So it is what it is. But Tyson, I think we covered everything, man. Is there anything else that you wanted to hit on?
No, I mean, Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I know it's bleak and we have a game. Dude, it's what, November 26th. We didn't even touch on Jets Seahawks. We didn't even mention the game. That's how disgusted we are with this. But it's just enjoy the holidays, enjoy family, and that's it. And 6 more games. We can move on from this disaster. Hopefully, hopefully they show up on Sunday. I'm hoping they lose for like tanking purposes, but it is what it is at this point, right?
Dude, I'm hoping for something positive. Revenge or return game of Geno Smith.
You could already see
Geno's still one of my favorite players, man.
You could already see the headlines about Geno Smith. If he lights them up and does this, oh, the Jets blew it with Geno and whatever else. I'm just over it. Like, I just want to see, just show up, compete. Don't be like the Giants last week. Like, don't be lifeless zombies. But it's just now I'm more interested to see what the candidates are going to be going forward. That's what I'm more worried about.
Totally, man. Totally. But yeah, anyway, thanks so much for everyone hanging out, tuning in. I appreciate you guys. And I appreciate that. Yo, Holmes, you're the man. Thanks so much. And as always, go Jets.